Halloween fusion in Raid Shadow Legends has been announced. We're going to take a look at it now and decide whether or not it is going to be a must-have or a go ahead and skip. Guys, finally he sleeps here, back again with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to take a look at the fusion that was just announced in Raid Shadow Legends for Gretel Hagbane. She is half of the Halloween duo. Now, last year at this time, we also had another Halloween duo that was Kaja and Timid the Fool, part of the, what was it, the Festival of Creation? I can't remember. It was some kind of a weird, they, instead of it being really Halloween themed, it was kind of a carnival of creation, carnival of something. I can't remember. Which tells you a lot about how great it was. But this new duo of Hansel and Gretel, the witch hunters, is, you can basically say that it's based off of the film with Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton from 2013, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. It's obviously not a partnership, but that is the feeling that we're getting from it. Gemma Arterton, who was Strawberry Fields in, was it Quantum of Solace, and then Polly from The Kingsman, was amazing in this film, with her brother being Jeremy Renner when he takes a break from being the mayor of Kingstown or Hawkeye. The movie was fantastic, so I'm really excited to see what these two champions bring to the game. So if you're unfamiliar with that movie and you haven't seen it, you have to check it out. It's a great film. It was written and directed by Tommy Wirkola, who has gone on to make nothing other than Dead Snow and Dead Snow 2, like horror comedies. But if you're really paying attention, his latest film is Spermageddon. Yeah, don't know why they're not making a partnership out of this. But anyway, from Spermageddon back to Hansel and Gretel. Google it. Seriously. Okay, so here is Gretel. She is half of this. She is an attack legendary force champion. Visually looks fantastic as far as the player card goes. We haven't seen her in game yet, but that stuff should be released here very soon. But we're looking at her actual skills and breakdown. We have a lot here. We have Evil Undone as her A1. And we're looking at a single enemy attack, 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense. Her A2 is an attacks one enemy 4 times. First hit ignores 10%, second percent ignores 15%, third 20%, and her fourth hit ignores 25% of defense. We don't know exactly what the multipliers are on this, but just out of the gate, that sounds like one heavy hit. It's a single enemy attack, though, and then if this attack kills an enemy, resets the cooldown of this skill and fills this champion turn meter by 50%. Her A3 is an AoE, decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 25%, which is fantastic. And then her passive is Sisterly Bond, which fills this champion's turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy is granted an extra turn. Now, I'm skipping the part that on all of these that say if Hansel is also on the team, because that completely changes what she has. If you look at her by herself, she's just an attack champion. The A2 is the interesting one, 4-time hit with all of that ignored defense on all of it. And then if it kills somebody, it's a turn meter fill and cooldown, full cooldown of that skill. So that's the big one. She doesn't have an AoE on 3. It's a turn meter control. So we've got a lot going on there, but generally, I mean, is she, like game changing without knowing the multipliers? No. But once you bring in Hansel as well as being on the same team, her A1 goes from a single enemy hit with 50% chance of decreased defense to an AoE with a 25% chance of placing decreased defense on all enemies. And then it gives an extra hit against enemies already under any buffs. So that changes that one into a massive hit for the A1. Then on her A2, it doesn't change anything, but A3, which is her AoE, If Hansel is on the same team, decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 50% instead of 25%. And this effect cannot be resisted. And then it fills this champion's turn meter by 20% for each enemy alive after the attack. Then her Sisterly Bond passive, if Hansel is on the same team, fills Hansel's turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy is granted an extra turn. If Hansel is on the same team and is killed by the enemy, instantly activates her Sacred Ritual, which again attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meter. And then since he's already on the same team, it's going to decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 50%, and it cannot be resisted. So by herself, Gretel Hagbane, meh. With Hansel, holy crap. And that's just the changes to her. Now, if we look at Hansel separately to see what he's bringing to it, it's a completely different picture as well. So over here on Hansel, he is also a legendary attack champion, but he is a magic one instead. And he is looking at a one enemy hit on his A1, 50% chance of placing 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Now for him, I'm only going to look at him with Gretel because I don't feel like people are going to end up with Hansel and not Gretel. They have a better chance of ending up with Gretel, but not Hansen. So when she's on the same team, that A1 becomes an AoE with a 25% chance of placing a 25% weaken on everybody. Also places an extra hit on enemies under any debuffs. So now we've got an AoE on his A1. A2 is an enemy 2 times, single enemy target, but it ignores shield and unkillable buffs, and then grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. A3, again, same for Gretel here with Hansel. If Gretel is on the same team, this is an AoE that ignores 15 and then % of the target's defense. Also increases the cooldown of 1 random skill on each enemy by 2 turns. But when Gretel's on there, instead of 15%, it's 30% of each target's defense is ignored, and then increases the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. Increases the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns rather than just 1 random skill by 2 turns. Cooldown increasing effect cannot be resisted. So again, if they're both on the team, it is huge. Now, his Brotherly Bond passive that works right along with Gretel reflects all fear and true fear debuffs from this champion to the attacker. When Gretel is on the same team, it also reflects the same things placed on her back onto the attacker. Now, if Gretel Hagbane, now this is the active effect, if Gretel Hagbane is on the same team and is killed by the enemy, it instantly activates Baneful Burst, which is his A3 attack, which is the AoE that ignores 30% of each target's defense because Gretel would be on the same team, and then increases the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns instead. Now, where are these going to be used? They definitely have arena vibes to them. I can see them coming into play in both classic arena and in like tag team, depending upon what you're using, if they're both on the team. As far as areas of the game that we can kind of see them coming into play, if both of them there as attack champions, they do have a lot of turn meter control. They're not laying down a whole lot of like crowd control debuffs. Actually, they're not laying down any crowd control debuffs other than reflecting things back in fear, true fear. So there's no real crowd control other than just 2 damage dealing attack champions. So possibly through the waves, there's going to be some specific dungeon bosses that may come into play where you just need heavy skill or heavy damage coming in. But I mean, it's multiple hits, turn meter control. I can see Fire Knight as a duo coming into play because of the 4-turn hit on A2 kind of thing. There's just multiple places where I would like to try them without knowing what the multipliers are going to be on these actual skills, like how much damage we're going to actually be able to place out of Gretel and Hansel. I can't really say whether or not it's going to be game changers in any area. I'd like to see them in HYDRA as a pair just because of the damage, especially when they come into turn meter control that cannot be resisted. So the multipliers are going to be where it is. Me personally, they're Halloween fusion champs. I'm obviously going to go after both of them. It's going to be a crapshoot on how we're going to come by Hansel, though. In the past, when they did this last year, HYDRA, or what was her name? HYDRA? Whatever. She was available through a Deck of Fate event that was required to have, I cannot remember. That's been a year ago. So it was either champion training, and I don't think that was a summon rush. I look back, we've had like Gwendolyn was 20 sacred shards and through Deck of Fate. If it's something like that, it may be 20 sacreds would be enough to get it, or, you know, a matter of different shards to be able to claim Hansel. If he's going to be something that you have to win in a tournament, that's completely different. Like, we've had multiple different ways of claiming Odin. It's just going to come down to how difficult it's going to be to claim him and what to do. I would say save your shards. Hold your shards in hope that he is going to be a guaranteed champion with X amount of shards. Same way with Hansel. For me, or same way with Gretel. For me, she's going to be a champion I'm definitely going to go for, and in hopes of finding a way to get Hansel. So on her own, by herself, not necessarily the greatest champion in the game. With Hansel as a duo, formidable pair of damage dealing champions, and I'm really excited to see what they can do in different areas of the game. That's it. I'm finally He Sleeps. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. Make sure you subscribe here on the channel so you never miss when any of these videos go along or come out for Raid Shadow Legends. As long as you guys keep showing up, I'll keep making videos.